Good morning, everyone. My name is Allison, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. I'll begin by introducing the Capital Pathways program, introduce myself, and then pass the mic over to our guest speaker, Jamie Dion, who is a QuickBooks Pro advisor. She'll introduce herself, take us through our presentation on setting up QuickBooks for your business. Please feel free to ask any questions that you have using the chat function. We'll respond to them as we go along. And for any questions that we can't respond to during this webinar, we're happy to address them through our no-cost one-on-one services or connect you with resources that can help. We'll share a recording of this webinar and any slides or handouts as part of our follow-up email. So what is the Capital Pathways program? It's a program funded by the U.S. Treasury SSBCI initiative, sponsored by the Virginia Department of Small Business and Supplier Diversity, and it's hosted by the Virginia SBDC and George Mason University. We'll start with a program overview, then go through program eligibility, and finish up with an outline of the services that we offer. As I said before, Capital Pathways is a no-cost, specialized SBDC program that helps small businesses build the systems and habits needed to become capital ready. Being capital ready matters because businesses that are less prepared can often self-select out or fail on loan applications. These early failures correlate to a lack of adequate capital, and higher cost alternatives don't build long-term capacity. Ultimately, only half of the loan amounts requested actually reach small businesses. So to put things in perspective, about 25% of small businesses need access to financing for growth and preserving cash flow. However, only about 20 to 30% of those who apply actually get their loan approved. To help address this challenge, Capital Pathways creates a path to financial and legal readiness. Our program offers an immersive, hands-on group experience paired with one-on-one support. Who's eligible? Very small businesses and nonprofits at any stage who face challenges accessing traditional financing are eligible for our program. And the services we provide include a guided self-assessment, legal structure validation, financial skills and tools, loan application readiness, and credit building advising. We start with a self-assessment that pinpoints your business's key gaps so we can connect you with tailored resources, either through our Capital Pathways program or other resources that can help. Under our legal structure validation services, our in-house advisors can help you through basic legal questions, and we partner with a law firm which can help with more complex topics, such as those related to business registration, trademarks, and contracts and agreement reviews. We also offer financial webinars like this one on topics including financial basics, financial statement preparation, and of course, QuickBooks training. Our one-on-one tailored advising support covers business foundations, profitability and pricing, financial forecasting, financing options and readiness, financial statements and tools, and loan readiness and lender preparation. These loan application readiness services include both webinars and one-on-one individualized support. These webinars cover topics such as what lenders look for on loan applications, as well as interactive mock loan interviews, SBA loan options, and sample application analyses. In addition, we have a partnership with a lender who can provide one-on-one support to those looking for capital. Finally, our credit building advisor will help you review and interpret your credit reports as part of building an individualized credit improvement plan. This allows you to strengthen your credit and helps you qualify for better financing options and terms. If you're interested in getting started, you can reach out through our website at virginiasbdc.org/programs/capital-pathways, or you can reach out to me directly at ajohn216@gmu.edu. I'll share my email and our website link in the chat for all of you to have. Now over to introductions. As I mentioned before, my name is Allie Johnson, and I'm today's moderator. I serve as the Program and Intake Coordinator for the Capital Pathways program and have a professional background in economic development, small business support, and access to finance projects, both domestically and internationally. Our session today will consist of a 2-hour presentation. And again, please feel free to ask any questions throughout using the chat function. We will be responding to them as we go along, and any questions that we can't respond to during today's webinar, we're happy to address through our no-cost one-on-one advising services or connect you with resources that can help. We'll share a recording of this webinar as well as any slides or handouts in a follow-up email. Now, I'll pass things over to Jamie to introduce herself and get us started, to share a bit about her background and start her presentation.
Thank you, Allie. And Allie, I don't believe the participants can use the chat box yet. At least I can't share with them in the chat. So if you could kind of figure that out, that would be great.
Yes.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jamie Dion. I am the owner of Balanced Bookkeeping. It is based out of Charlottesville, Virginia, but I work with clients all over the US. And before I was a bookkeeper, my previous life was as a teacher. And so I'm able to continue my teaching in a little way every month by doing these QuickBooks webinars. And so my goal is to make this as approachable and understandable as possible, as QuickBooks is kind of its own language sometimes. I am, as you can probably tell, finishing up with the flu, so my voice is a little bit raspy, but I hope that we can get through this together today in an understandable way, because you guys are doing the great work. It is January 27th. Taxes are due in a few months, and my hope and assumption with you all right now is that you want to get your books in order so that you have some accurate financials to produce to TurboTax, to your tax preparer, to your CPA, and hopefully make some good choices for your business in 2026. All right, let's see. So we are going to be using the QuickBooks test drive today, which Allie has put into the chat box. This is a link that you can always use. So after today, know that you can use it next week, next month, next year to explore with QuickBooks Online. Without facing the repercussions of messing up your data. Okay, so I highly encourage you to use the test drive today. If you really want to be working in your own books, that is fine. Okay, that is fair. That's fine. What I would like you to do, though, is split your screen so that you can see my screen on half of the tab and then your own on the other half. Okay, so I'm going to share. Allie, I still don't have access to, mine doesn't say everyone, so I can't put the questions in there. I only have
give me 1 second. I will keep looking through that, but I'll also I can also moderate the chat as well.
Okay. Great. Awesome. I see Jamie, I see Anita. Great. Just me. I'm the only one. I guess that doesn't even matter that much. As long as everyone has the test drive is my MO. All right. And again, this is meant, excuse me, this is meant to be very interactive and hands-on. I want all of you to be doing as we go through this today. So how this webinar will run is I'm going to introduce you to a new feature in QuickBooks, and then I'm going to give you 3 to 5 minutes after introducing that feature for you to really go look around, explore, experiment, see how things work on your own. And during those 3 to 5 minutes, I'm going to be looking at the chat box and answering questions. So if you have a question related to the feature that we're talking about, please put it into that chat box so that I can get to it. If you have a question that is not related to what we're talking about, hold on until the end of the webinar, and we'll have about 30 minutes at the end to answer any and all questions that you have. Okay? All right, so this is when you log into QuickBooks, this is your initial dashboard. And QuickBooks has really revamped their whole setup in QuickBooks Online. It looks completely different than it looked 6 months ago. And so even if you're somewhat familiar, you might be like, what the heck is this, right? So what I always tell people is QuickBooks Online, they're trying to meet the needs of every business, right? They want the micro business to use QuickBooks along with the multi-million-dollar businesses. And so it's up to you as the business owner to customize your QuickBooks Online so that it runs and works for your business. Okay, QuickBooks isn't going to do that for you automatically. It's going to be up to you to customize your work. Okay, so this dashboard can work really well for you. Okay, so you can see at the very top, you have links to some of the most used areas in QuickBooks Online. The accounting tab, we're going to be using that a lot for our monthly workflow. You also, in the business feed, are able to see these are like your outstanding tasks, right? Looks like you have some overdue invoices. You should probably go check those out, maybe send some reminders. You can see your bank accounts at a glance, right? Making sure to see the goal, right, is to have these numbers be the same. So looking at those, what's going on there? Oop, I understand I have 25 transactions to review. You can see your invoice cycle, right? How much is outstanding? How much has been paid? You even have a profit and loss. This one is really cool. This one shows you a breakdown of the types of expenses that you have in the last 30 days. So it would show you like 25% utilities, 30% rent, 5% software to give you that visual glance of what your expense trend has been for the last 30 days, and etc. So you might be thinking, Jamie, I don't need all of this, right? This is overwhelming. There's too many boxes on this page. And so what you can do is you can customize your dashboard. You can change the fit. You can delete different areas altogether if you don't like them. You can add other options over here, add or remove widgets, so that you can see what's most important to you. Like maybe you want accounts payable on there so you can see the bills that are coming up. Maybe you have a mileage heavy business and you want that to be there. Okay, I'm gonna click save. So there's so many ways to customize this. And this is kind of like your first line of defense when you log in, right? Being able to see what's going on in your business before you dive in deeper. Over here on the left side, this used to be a bar, and that's kind of blended in. Plus create, this is where you're adding anything new to your business. So any new financial information to your QuickBooks Online account. So this is where you could create a new invoice, maybe an estimate, maybe you have to give a credit memo, right? Maybe you have a new bill, journal entries. This is something we talk about in QuickBooks 201, right? If you need to add any new data into your QuickBooks account, most likely this is the fastest way to do it, the plus create. Then you have some other tools over here. The all apps is going to give you everything, basically any pathway to what you need is going to be under all apps. So the accounting tab, this is where your monthly workflow lives, right? This is where we're going to spend time today. This is where your bank feeds are. This is where we'll reconcile. This is where your chart of accounts is, okay? Expenses, these are for your bills, your vendors. Sales, this is your invoices, customers. if you're doing payroll, and some of the stuff, again, you don't need. Again, you can customize it. Get rid of what you don't need. Okay. Finally, the last dashboard stop that we're going to go on right now is over here, this gear icon in the upper right-hand corner. This is more of your system business, your QuickBooks system level information. And so the most important spot here is your account and settings. So what I highly recommend you do is your first piece of homework today is to go through these tabs and make sure that everything is set up correctly. You want to have your QuickBooks file be complete because this information gets moved to a lot of different places when you're using QuickBooks completely. So for example, if you're using QuickBooks Payments to receive payment, right, you need to have all of this information to allow QuickBooks to process payments for you. Same with payroll. And so if you can make sure that this information is complete, it will transfer over to all of the other areas of QuickBooks Online. Okay. Sales is a big one. Okay. This one, if you are going to invoice through QuickBooks, you can set defaults for most everything on your invoice so that you don't have to recreate the wheel every single time you invoice. So are you going to accept tips? Are you going to give discounts? If you turn these on or off, there will automatically be a cell on all of your invoices to add that. Late fees. Are you going to require late fees for late payments? You can adjust the way that your messages read, right? So the default right now is very corporate, right? You can change this language so that it sounds more like your business. If you're more of a relaxed business, maybe you're more corporate and you need this to sound more rigid and more firm, right? So these are all things that you can adjust. Here's a big one, the reminders. So for invoice reminders, you can turn on these automatic reminders so that emails are going out without you having to press send on them. So if you have a problem with receivables, right, you're not getting paid your invoices, QuickBooks can do some of that heavy lifting for you, where you can adjust when you want that first reminder to go out. 2 weeks before the due date, sure. You can make it sound more friendly, this first one, maybe a little bit more stern, the second one, and then the third one might be like, pay me my invoice, right? Like very upfront. All right, so there's so much in here that you can customize and set up proactively to save you time on the back end. Okay, so what I want you to do, this is your first 3-minute, hold on, if I can get out of here. This is your first 3 minutes at exploratory time. So go ahead, see if you can customize your dashboard. All right, what's important to you and your business? All right, maybe some of this doesn't matter to you and you want to keep it really simple. Go and see if you can click through some of these creates. What are some things you're going to need to create in your QuickBooks account? Maybe see if you can add a bill. Maybe see if you can add an invoice. All right, and then finally, look at your gear and see if you can start customizing your accounts and settings in there. All right, and then I'm going to start answering questions from the chat box. So if you have any questions, go ahead and add. Awesome, Allie. I can now write to everyone. Thank you. And everyone, don't be shy. This is your time. Please put the question, put any and all questions you have. This is your time to get yourself set up well. Joe says, what is the fee to use QuickBooks? Does it differ based on the size of the business? So the simplest, so QuickBooks has 4 different levels of QuickBooks Online. And the simplest version is called Simple Start. And I think it runs fine for most early businesses, even just small businesses that have been around for a while. And that costs $38 a month. QuickBooks offers a promo of 50% off, usually between 3 and 8 months, the first 3 and 8 months. So that's a way to kind of get you hooked on it. They also offer some, yes, Dana, I'm putting the QuickBooks link again for you. They also offer a smaller version called QuickBooks Solopreneur that I'm not as familiar with, but it also gets the job done. If you're just a one man or woman team, you don't have any loans, you're not doing payroll, you basically just need a P&L, right, for your tax purposes. That might be something to look into as a cheaper option. All right. Any other questions? All right, let's keep rolling. So now that you know a little bit about the basics of the initial dashboard, we're going to go to the next place that you should go when you're setting up your QuickBooks Online file, which is your chart of accounts. So to get there, we're going to go to All Apps, Accounting, Chart of Accounts. Now, your chart of accounts is like the skeleton of your business finance, okay? If you don't have this set up well, your business financials are not going to be working, right? They're not going to be reflecting what's actually happening in your business. And so while we're going to explore and experiment for 3 minutes today on this. This is something that you really want to devote a good chunk of time on. And this would be a task that I would say would be worthwhile to meeting with a one-on-one advisor to go over this chart of accounts so that it does reflect your business, okay? When we think about the chart of accounts is split up into 5 different account types. First, we have our assets, right, which are our banks. It's our receivables, the invoices that have been sent out but not received payment for yet. This could be inventory. If you're doing accrual, it could be prepaid expenses, right? It could also be tangible assets like trucks, vehicles. It could be buildings, land, anything that you could sell for cash if you needed to, right? Anything that has a cash value is an asset. Then we have liabilities. Liabilities is what you owe. So accounts payable, those are your bills. Credit cards, loans, sales tax is a liability, right? All of those are liabilities. Then we move into equity. Equity is the money that you've put into your business as the business owner or taken out, all right? So your investments or your draws, your contributions or your distributions, depending on what your entity type is. Then we move into the ones that we're more familiar with, right? Our income streams, which is our different revenue streams, right? You can see here, this is Craig's landscape and design. I realize I didn't tell you that yet. This is the dummy account that we get to play in. You can see that Craig has added a ton of different income accounts, right? He, excuse me, he is using his QuickBooks Online very granularly in terms of his income, at least. And so that is a choice that you can make right? I see a lot of business owners who have one income account. They have a sales account and that's it. And if you have one revenue stream, that's fine-ish, right? But if my nerdy bookkeeper goal for you all is that you start using your QuickBooks to make financial decisions. And often that means that we're looking at different income streams, revenue streams, more granularly, right? Maybe not as granularly as he is, but being able to clearly see where is the money coming in through, right? So for example, for me, I have balanced bookkeeping. I have my recurring sales. That is an income stream for me. So I keep track of all of my recurring revenue. I keep track of my one-time projects. And then I keep track of my consulting and like public speaking revenue. And based by having those income streams, I'm able to see, wow, sure feels like I spent a lot of time on the public speaking this past year, but I really didn't make that much money, right? Is it still worthwhile for me to do that? Do I need to up my rates? Do I need to remove that revenue stream? What should I do, right? And it doesn't mean that you always need to be making decisions based on that, but it gives you that space for reflection rather than having just one income stream, income account sales and not really knowing what that's made up of. Okay. Then we have cost of goods sold. You would have this if you are creating a product, right, for your business. So cost of goods sold is basically the cost of creating that product. So that might be supplies and materials. It might be the cost of labor. It might be your shipping if you're an e-commerce business. Okay. And then your expenses. All of your operating expenses go down here. Now, when you sign up for QuickBooks, they're going to ask you a lot of questions on your onboarding. What's your industry? What's your entity type? Do you have payroll? Do you have employees? And based on what you respond, they're customizing this in the back end. So if you have a brand new QuickBooks Online account and you go to your chart of accounts, there's a good chance that you probably have like 150 accounts in here. And that's because QuickBooks has added any account that they think you might need, right? Which is not great because we don't want to have, I use the analogy that this is like a filing cabinet with a bunch of folders that are empty, right? We don't want that. What we want is to have a small filing cabinet with about a handful of folders where there are lots of receipts in each of those folders, right? And so your job now is to take what QuickBooks has given you, take the template they've given you, and customize it so that it looks and feels and sounds like your business. I know a good chart of accounts when I can read down the chart of accounts and get a grasp of what's going on in your business right now. Okay, so say you have a big old chart of accounts. What do? Right? Now we need to customize. So the first thing I would do is inactivate anything that you don't need. Okay, so if I'm looking here and he is not, what can I get rid of? Stationery and printing, right? He doesn't, we're going to lump that under office expenses. We don't need to have its own account. So to inactivate, it's as simple as clicking on this down arrow over here and making inactive. Okay, it's going to ask me if I want to make inactive. I want to click yes. You want to make sure that you're not making inactive things that you have used in the last year, right? Because then this will take all of those transactions and it won't be accounted for on your P&L, right? We want to make sure these are empty. But yes, make inactive. I say, you know what? Crud, I actually do want that. I'm printing out a lot of blueprints. I want to make sure I have that. Reactivating it is just as simple, okay? I'm going to click settings here, include inactive, Now, if I find it again, where did it go? I can type it in here, stationery. All right, we can see this. All I have to do is click Make Active again. Okay, super simple. So don't have a chart of accounts that is your business, that is the hope for your business 5 years from now. Make your chart of accounts reflect your business today. You can always adjust your chart of accounts at any time. So if you don't have a vehicle right now, but you hope to in 2 years, don't have vehicle expenses on here right now. Okay, you can always add it when it happens. All right, so now if I go to stationery and printing again, say instead of making it inactive, I want to merge it with the office expenses that I saw, right? Another option you have is you can merge accounts together so that all of that data combines, right? And this is the way that I like to do it best, okay? So the first thing you need to do is see what the detail type is of the new account that you want, right? So it's office general administrative expenses. And I need to look at exactly what the name is. Capitals and periods count. Okay, so here's office expenses. I'm gonna go back and find stationery again. And I'm gonna click edit. This time I'm going to change my account name to office expenses. It's an expense type, and the other office expenses was office general administrative expenses. I'm going to keep that there. You can see that QuickBooks has already recognized that they're the same. Now I'm going to click save, and it's asking me to merge them. This is what I want, right? So I'm merging my accounts and clicking save. So now all the information in here is now within office expenses. Okay, if I ran the report, it would have all the stationery and all the office expenses in there, right? And so that keeps it really nice and clean. The other thing you can do is you can always adjust the naming, right, to be more specific, like advertising and marketing. Usually they have a lot of sub-accounts. Oops. This one doesn't, but a lot of sub-accounts that are kind of dated. And so you can update them to say like social media advertising, if I wanted this to say social media advertising. So that again, it reflects your business more closely. I say for most small businesses, about 70, 75 total accounts is plenty. Okay. Anything more than 100, like you better be a big business with a lot of things going on. Okay. So take some time now, right? You're in the test drive, so you can really mess this up and it doesn't matter, right? See if you can create a new account for something that you're going to have in your business. Maybe see if you can adjust and maybe see if you can merge a couple of his accounts together. All right, can you do that successfully? Maybe, excuse me, maybe see if you can inactivate some. If you're like, Jamie, I've got this, go ahead and start making a list of the important expense and income accounts that you want to have for your business. All right, and I'm going to go back to the chat box. So go ahead and ask any questions related to the chart of accounts now. Yay, look at all these questions. Ooh, so Wanda asked a question back to the dashboard. What are the bookmarks for? And will we go over it? So let's talk about that quick. So bookmarks are for any of the areas that you are going to be needing often. right? So for example, if we want to bookmark the chart of accounts, right? Save. And I'm going to also bookmark, oops. This also bookmarks it right here, this little button. Oops. There we go. And I'm going to bookmark reconcile because that's what we're going to talk about today too. So now you can see these bookmarks will bring you exactly to where we're going next, right? So if I go back to the chart of accounts, it's kind of like a shortcut is what this is. Good question. Jamie says, has anyone noticed an increase in ads and pushy marketing by QuickBooks? Absolutely, Jamie. It's to my I think it's to their detriment. And it's annoying. So I hope that they chill out a little bit soon. But yes. And as a bookkeeper, it's not great for my marketing either when they're saying, you can do this yourself, right? But just ignore them. I know there's no way to like say, don't send me anything, unfortunately. All right. Is it Tunde? How can we avoid QuickBooks sharing our data information to third party for marketing purposes? I haven't noticed that. Can you tell me more about what you're seeing? I'm pretty sure that they're not supposed to be doing that. I haven't run into that at all. But let me know what you know that I don't know. Madhura says, this is beyond setup. If we maintain our hours spent in spreadsheet in Google Sheet, we use one QBO plus. How can we make sure QBO gets info out of the spreadsheet without us having to manually bring it here again? Yes, let's, what I would say, yeah, I think we need to talk more individually, Madhura. I would say looking at Zapier maybe to see what you need in order to get it into QuickBooks, but I think I need more information before I give you any definitive answer. Shay says, I'm a startup. However, when I have my first employee, can I use QuickBooks for HR functions, paying salaries and such, or do I need separate HR software? So so you need separate. So QuickBooks Payroll is the payroll software for QuickBooks. They offer bundle deals, which is comparable to any other HR payroll software. So you would have an added fee every month to have payroll on there, but it's comparable to Gusto, ADP, OnPay, and some people like to have everything in one place. Kevin says specific SKUs don't go under income, however, right? Just the general categories of your business. Good question, Kevin. So we want it to be a balance, right? We don't want to be tracking every single item that you sell if you are a grocery store or a retail space, right? Absolutely not. But thinking about the larger buckets, but based on what you sell, and what might help you to make informed business decisions. So in terms of tax, you only need one, right? We only need to know what your revenue was for the year. However, if you're going to be using your QuickBooks to make decisions, what categories of sales could you piece apart, or break apart, sorry, so that you can see the different areas of your business. So for example, I have a client who is like a bookstore and but also sells clothing and does events, right? And so we track their clothing sales, their book sales, their they do a lot with like local vendor sales, and then their events, right? And that helps us to make sure that not only the COGS spending is accurate, but also like where are we making the most money? Madura says, how is chart of accounts different than expenses section in QuickBooks? Yes, so remember, great question. So your chart of accounts, this is your skeleton, all right? These are the bones of your business. Your expenses section is taking the actual expenses that you incur and putting them in the accounts, in the chart of accounts. Okay, so you have to do your chart of accounts first in order to start putting your expenses in the correct categories. Linda says, when you deactivate an account, does it print on reports? It prints on reports if you have data from that account within the report period that you're running, right? So if for stationery and printing, if we had just deactivated it and I had an expense from last week, it would show the name, and then in parentheses, it's going to say deleted, and then the total. That's why we want to make sure that that is empty, right, before we deactivate. Otherwise, merging would probably be the better option. Tiffany says, there appears to be sub-accounts like under job supplies. How do you designate that relationship versus merging accounts? Great question. You guys are on your A game today. I love it. So you can see like here, right? Truck is the parent account, and then the depreciation and the original cost are the sub accounts, right? You are always able to have this set up for any account type. And what's nice about this is that you're able to lump like expenses or like income together. Okay. To do it, it's as easy. So if you look at this depreciation one, it's as easy as clicking make this a sub account when you're creating the account, and then you would choose the parent account. I am pretty A-type, and I like to have parent accounts and sub accounts for most of my expenses. So I have like usually an administrative costs parent account, and then like bank charges, dues and subscriptions, insurance are all sub accounts under the administrative expenses. And so if you don't want it to be a sub account anymore, right? Let's say that the lawyer, we want to have its own for some reason, right? All you have to do is click on unmake that a sub account and click save. And then you can see now here, it's its own little section. Okay, so you can get really organized here, having all of your like costs together. Some clients have a lot of different insurance costs, and we want to be able to see the total spent on insurance along with the business insurance, the vehicle insurance, the health insurance, whatever. And so a nice way to keep it nice and clean is to have the parent account and then the separate sub accounts underneath. Say, like this is a great example of maintenance and repairs. These are the 3 different types of repairs that he has to pay for. Jamie says, for a nonprofit, would a donation be considered an account receivable? So account receivable is anything you have invoiced for that you haven't received payment for. And so Jamie, I would recommend coming back to QuickBooks 201, I think next month, maybe the following month, where we talk a lot about invoicing. But the invoicing structure works where we are going to send an invoice out. When the invoice goes out, the balance automatically turns into a receivable, right? We are expecting payment on that. When the payment comes back in, this receivable is reduced, right? Or say this is only one invoice, it goes back to 0. And then that money goes over into the income account. For your example, it would be donations, right? And then that goes to 0. This is just showing what invoices are outstanding. Okay. Let's keep rolling. So this is your chart of accounts. Again, this is where you want to spend your time, right? If you're nestled up under a blanket for the next 3 days with this cold weather, get on your chart of accounts and really workshop this, okay? Once your chart of accounts is set up well, the next step is to link your bank accounts, and we can see that Craig has linked his checking and his savings. So we're going and his credit card. So we're going to go over to your bank transactions. QuickBooks has come a long way in a short amount of time in terms of this feature. Let me get rid of this pop-up though. Okay, so no longer are you or your bookkeeper or your admin assistant required to manually put all of this information into QuickBooks. Instead, we're able to link our business accounts to QuickBooks Online, and they speak to your banks, bringing that information into QuickBooks, okay? To do this, you'll click on Link Account. You'll choose whatever bank you have. Okay, this obviously isn't going to show, let me do it. Once you click on your bank, it's going to ask you to put in your username and password, and then it's going to bring in your data. It will ask you, when do you want data to come in from? So if you are planning to use QuickBooks Online for your 2025 taxes, right? Choose January 1st, 2025, and all of your transactions from last year will come into this bank feed like this, okay? Which is wonderful. It's doing most of the hard work for you. You want to make sure that you're linking any business account that you have, okay? Nothing personal. If you are commingling, we're going to create journal entries for all of your business expenses on personal cards. You do not want to link your personal accounts, okay? And that's a really bad habit. We want to make 2026 the year you stop commingling, okay? What you can see now is that we have all of the transactions that have happened in the last several months, right? Your job now is to categorize these transactions based on your chart of accounts, okay? So if I'm at a rental, let's do this one together. So I can see my bank detail, A1 rental, backhoe rental, right? So this is going to look exactly the same as what is on your bank detail if you logged into your bank. So I'm going to my vendor, going to create a new vendor if I don't have one for this at A1 rental. You don't need to add all this other information unless you want to, okay? A name is sufficient. The account type, this would be a rental, equipment rental, right? And I can add a memo if I wanted to, like if this is a project, I could put like Charlottesville project, right? You don't need to. You could add a receipt if you want to, if you have a system for using QuickBooks, and click add. Now this information is under this categorize tab. And this is also in all of your reporting. Okay, so this has been recognized. We're good. Now, one of the things we want to make sure we do is be consistent with our categorization systems, setup, processes, okay? So if I had A1 rental and I'm not sure where I categorized it before, right? I'm like, was this like was this a tool that I purchased, a rental, right? This one doesn't have any more information. If you click on categorization history, it's going to show you where you've categorized it to in the past. And that's going to help you to be more consistent. So especially things that could have two homes, like for example, your QuickBooks subscription, right? That could be a software and apps. It could also be a dues and subscriptions. They both are fine. They both work. They're both right. But we don't want to have 50% of the software, 50% of the QuickBooks in software and 50% in dues and subscriptions. We just want one. Okay, so use this categorization history to help you to put everything in the right spot. Okay, and click add. The goal every month is to get this to be 0, right? So if I do this, I'm looking for this green check mark, right? That means I've categorized everything in my bank feed. Sometimes a good strategy, like I'm looking at here, and this says that this has been synced since 1/15, January 15th. That's a long time ago, right? So again, this is the test drive. I'm sure they just haven't added more data since then, but having it be a habit of clicking updating before you get categorizing is good, because it's pretty obnoxious when you're like, oh, now I have another 15 things to categorize, right? Because it hasn't been synced in a couple weeks. All right, go ahead and experiment. Oh, one more thing. So what often happens when you are categorizing is you'll say, ooh, this is an expense for something I don't have an account for yet, right? Let's say that Books by Bessie, right? This is continued education, and I don't have a continued education account yet. So instead of going back to my chart of accounts, which I can, and adding, you can also add a new account here. At the very top, there's always the button plus add new account. So you can add them directly in your bank feed to save you a little bit of time. Maybe. There we go. Where you can add so continued education is the name. It's an expense. And then detailed type, I'm going to put under Office General. Now again, right, you can still make it a sub account if you wanted to. I don't really see anywhere to put it for a sub account. So I'm going to keep it like that and click save. And then there we go, right? It's added. As you're getting familiar with your chart of accounts, I think it is better to go back there and see where your new accounts fit. But as you get rolling, know that you can save some time with just adding it directly right here. Okay, go ahead and explore for 3 minutes. And again, I'm going to keep answering questions in the chat box. Yes, Ashley, sorry, I'm just seeing your question now about chart of accounts. Ashley says, it looks like some accounts are unable to be inactivated. For instance, other income gives the error, this account cannot be deleted because it's used by a product or service. What does this mean? And how would you address it if you want to adjust it? Yeah. So QuickBooks requires some to stay activated because they use those for like defaults when they don't have a place to put them, like any of the ones that are called uncategorized asset, uncategorized expense, they're going to require you to keep those. For yours though, Ashley, when it says other income, that is tied to a product that you've created within your invoicing tab. So really quick, I'll show you. So if you go to sales and get paid and products and services, you have likely all of these different types of products and services as well. If you click edit any of these, all products are linked, sorry, the Zoom, are linked to an income account. So one of your products is linked to the other income account. You'll need to adjust this income account to something different before you can inactivate the other income account. Okay. You could also merge accounts, right? If really what other income is a different sales channel that you have, right? That you're keeping, you could merge them together, and then this income account would just change automatically to whatever the merged income account was. Jamie says, what account would donations go under? I would have donations be its own income account, right? Especially if you're a nonprofit. You might even want to make that more specific, right? It could be public donations, business donations, church donations, right? I work with a handful of nonprofits, and we like to see that more granularly so we know where to focus the fundraising on. All right. Brian. Brian, let's table that till the end. There's a lot there. Teresa. Teresa says, you may have had this question. My question is, so she's starting a car rental business, but also building homes. Can I use QuickBooks for both? You should have a QuickBooks Online account for each individual EIN. So I would say, what is your legal structure based on all of that? And if it's all under one umbrella account, what I would recommend you do is upgrade to the Plus subscription. We talk about this in QuickBooks 201, where you can have different classes and locations to track the different segments of your business. Obviously, you want to be tracking each of your homes expenses separately, right? And clearly the car rental business. So at the end of the day, at the end of the day, it matters what your entity type is. So that's what I would start with, thinking about that. And then, yes, I know it's a pain in the butt, right? Having to have 4 different QuickBooks Online accounts, if that's the case. But that's the right way to do it. Not saying I haven't seen other people lump them all together. There's ways to do everything, right? All right. So hopefully you've gotten the hang of categorizing, right? Having a vendor, having a category for each one. Something you might have noticed is, let me get over here. Sorry, I didn't enable. Okay, so something you might have noticed is that there are some other buttons down here, right? Specifically, is create a rule. This will save you a ton of time, okay? So what a rule does, if you have ordinary expenses where you're paying the same vendor or customer for the same thing, month over month, week over week, whatever, you're able to create a rule so that you don't have to go in here and add the vendor and customer every time. So check this out. So if I click create rule, I'm going to call this A1 rental. And you're just going to go through these prompts. So when I apply to transactions that are money out of my checking, I can click all. I always just click all, so that if I pay from my savings or my MasterCard, the rule still works. And it has the description of a rental, right? So this is adjustable, but this is the bank detail. So typically I just leave this as is. Then I want to categorize it as an expense, as an equipment rental. The payee is A1 rental. This down here is super important. So this is automatically adding the transaction to your reporting. It's not going to show up in the bank feed if I have this on, which you might say, Jamie, that sounds awesome. Like out of sight, out of mind, one less thing I need to do. However, this is a large part of why I have a profitable business, because people turn this on and they make a huge mess. Okay, please turn this off, at least in the beginning, right? We want to have eyes. Excuse me. We want to have eyes on all of our transactions, even if it's just for a microsecond, right? So see what it's done, right? It's created this rule. So now I no longer need to click into it. I can just click add, go down my list, right? So it saves you a ton of time. Anything that's a software, anything that's a utility, maybe your rent payment, maybe a contractor that you pay the same amount, the same, it doesn't even have to be the same amount, just the vendor, right? I pay balance bookkeeping every month. Let's have it so that it's a rule and I can just click add, right? So go ahead and see if you can create a rule for some of Craig's transactions. Okay, maybe go over to MasterCard. So if I look at Laura's lamination business card, right? See if you can create a rule for her that says that every time that Laura's lamination comes through the bank feed, it's advertising and marketing, right? If you make a mistake, or maybe you've already made a mistake with the rules, you're like, oh, Jamie, everything is auto ad for me, right? You can click over to rules and you have all of your rules here, right? Probably a long list. If you have everything on auto add, there'll be a green square right here. You can click here, batch action, and you'll have an option that says turn off auto add. Okay, so you can just turn it off right away, so that you don't continue to make a mess, right? If you find that some of these are good, right? Like I just checked out A1 rental, it works fine. I typically say give it a couple months before turning it on, but you can always turn it on later. Okay, this saves me tons of time. If you can create good rules, your 30 minutes of categorizing transactions turns into about 5 minutes. Okay, go ahead and see if you can create a couple of rules, and I will keep answering questions from the chat box. Madura, yes, we're going to talk about your monthly workflow in just a minute. We're going to go one more place, and then we're going to talk about the workflow, the basics of what you need to be doing. Julie says QuickBooks won't allow multiple EINs on one license. Ask me how I know. Yep. Sorry. They got to make their money somewhere, right? No, I'm kidding. So create some rules. Again, if you're in your own, check out the rules you've created, right? Do they need any tidying up? QuickBooks will also tell you the rules that no longer work. right? Maybe you've deleted an account, a category that needs, so now the rule is not working anymore. You really want to try to keep this tight and clean so that your categorization here keeps working well. I'll give you one more minute. All right, let's keep going. So once you have everything categorized for the month, right? Now we have data to look at our reporting for. So we're going to go this time over to reports and standard reports. As you can see, QuickBooks has a plethora of reports, right? Really large, really way more than you would ever use on a monthly basis. And so what's important is that you figure out the reports that actually matter most to you, and you can favorite them, right, by clicking on the star so that you have easy access to them, okay? We can also customize the reports within these to have even more specific data for you. So if I go, the first report we're going to talk about today is the profit and loss. So your profit and loss is the short-term health of your business, right? Showing us exactly what has been going on. It could be for the past month, it could be for the past quarter, it could be for the past week, right? It's giving us that immediate information surrounding the short-term health. So clearly we don't have much in here yet. So I'm going to change to last year so we can get better data. So as you can see, right, your profit and loss, it starts with your income categories, right? Craig had all those different income accounts, and it is beneficial, right, to be able to see, wow, so he charged $2,200 for the fountain and lighting materials, this much for soil, right? And should hopefully reflect on the cost of goods sold. So it looks like a little bit out of whack. But either way, right, it's showing us his income accounts, followed by his cost of goods sold, the cost of him providing his service, and then all of his actual expenses. So these are his operating. Finally, at the very bottom, right, is our net income. Clearly we have some work to do for Craig, right? He's in the negative for 2025. So while this is helpful, right, there are ways to customize this report so that we can see more granularly what's going on. So one of the customizations I like to do is display columns by, do it by months. And what we can see now, maybe, right, is what has been going on for Craig month over month. Same report, just splitting it up into columns. And so now, well, that kind of makes sense, right? He just started his business, it looks like in July. So that would make sense that he might be at a loss for this first year. And then I can start making more decisions like, his pest control services, he's only making $110 for the whole year. And he has this huge refund. So what's going on here? Should we just remove this from his offerings? Probably, right? But again, being able to make decisions based on your data and not just being in compliance, okay? One of the other benefits of having up-to-date P&Ls is thinking about your quarterly estimated tax payments, right? Once you start making money in your business, the government expects you to be paying quarterly estimated taxes. And by using your profit and loss, you're able to make an accurate estimate of how much you might owe. So what you want to do is look at your net income. With Craig being in the negative, right? He doesn't owe any estimated taxes. However, if you're in the positive, you want to take that net income, your profit, and multiply it by 30%. And that's going to give you an estimate, right? This is like ballpark of about how much you should be sending into the Fed and the state for quarterly estimated taxes. I obviously don't know all of your tax information, right? Depending on what your tax bracket is, if you, the number of dependents, your full tax situation, it might be higher than 30%, it might be lower than 30%. And so this is when you want to consult with the tax professional to say, what should my estimated tax payment percentage be? Okay, but this is a great way to pull those numbers out. The other report that I would want you to all be looking at on a monthly-ish basis, quarterly maybe, is your balance sheet. So if the profit and loss is your short-term health, your balance sheet is your long-term health. This is like more of your time capsule of your business. Okay, all of these numbers, they're all related in some way, year over year over year over year. So it starts with your assets, right? Again, we can see banks, your receivables, inventory, buildings, trucks, right? Vehicles. Then our liabilities, the things we owe. So this is our bills, credit cards, sales tax, loans. And then finally, your equity. Here you would have your owner's investments, owner draws here as well. Craig doesn't have that quite yet. And so between these two reports, this is your full financial picture of your business. Okay. If you're not familiar with either of these reports, I would say focus on your profit and loss most immediately, right? The profit and loss is telling you if you're profitable, and we want you to be profitable, right? That's not the name of the game. We need you to be profitable to keep your business afloat. So if you're not too familiar with the P&L yet, that's where I'd hang out. And there are tons of different ways to customize here too, right? You can filter for certain things. You can adjust really anything. And then when you have a report that you love, you can click Save As, and it will go into your customized reports so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel year, month over month, week over week, whatever. Okay? If you're like Jamie, I've been in the game for a long time. I know these reports like the back of my hand. Go ahead and look at some of the other reports. Think about the pain points that you have in your business right now. Is there a financial report that could be really helpful for you on a weekly, monthly basis? Okay, go ahead and play with the reports for a little bit, see if you can customize some, and I will keep answering questions. Julie says, how do we categorize the return of the owner's draw? Like, oops, I needed 5K and now I'm returning 3 of it. So 2 different ways, Julie. So most accounts have an owner's draw and an owner investment account, right? And so if you wanted to follow those rules, right, the draw would be a draw, the 5K would be a draw, the 3K would be an investment, which is the same as if you wanted to do 5K in the draw and then returning it, you could also put the 3K in the draw to make the total draw $2,000. I kind of like to do it the second way, right? To show that the draw was actually only $2,000. But either way works, as long as they're both in an equity account. Who's using reports well right now? Anyone have any reports that they want to share? Yay, Julie is. That they're using, that they're loving. Any customizations that you've made that have been a game changer? It's really, while it's so overwhelming looking at this big old list of reports, if you can just find the few that give you what you need, right? This can really up level your work as the CEO, as the executive director, whatever your name is, right? In your business, the treasurer. You just gotta go through all of this to find the ones that are really gonna help you. Maybe it's receivables, right? AP aging, AR aging, what's owed. There's a lot in here. One of the ones, actually, let me just show you real quick. So another one that's great, and I talk about in 201, is the profit and loss as percentage of total income. This one is really wonderful for for being able to see where your waste is, like where are you spending, where are all your expenses going, or like what's eating up all of your profit. Right here, you can see the percentage of total income. So we can see what our best income streams are, right? Probably the landscaping services here, but even within it, maybe the design income too, right? But then down here, what are we spending money on? Like lots of, oh no, sorry. A lot of repairs, right? So, maybe we need to invest in purchasing a new piece of equipment, or maybe we need to keep renting. I don't know. Oh, actually, no, let's not do any more renting, right? Look at that, 20%. So again, being able to have this data, have these reports to be able to adjust the reports in different ways to pull out this information. Like, ooh, look at this down here, everyone. Miscellaneous, 28%. Like all of that needs a home, right? That's not giving us good data. That almost a third of our business is in miscellaneous costs, right? That needs to be more specific somewhere. All right, last spot, and then I promise we'll answer some questions, and then you guys will be let go. All right, so what we have done today, what we have gone through today, is really the basis of your monthly workflow. Okay, so what I tell my clients, what I'm telling you, is when the bank statement comes in, if it's in your inbox, if it's in your mail, have that be the cue that you need to go do your monthly record keeping. Okay. If you're going in more often than that, wonderful, right? If you're doing weekly, wonderful. But at a bare minimum, have that bank statement be the cue, time to get into QuickBooks. Okay. Your first job, right? Maybe you have it in your bookmarks or under all apps. You're going to go to accounting, bank transactions. You're going to update the same, all the data, and then you're going to categorize all of this information. Okay. Of course, QuickBooks is going to be slow for me right now. Then I'm going to have all of those green check marks, right? That means I've categorized everything. Then I'm going to go to reconcile. We haven't talked about this yet, but this is relatively simple. Reconcile is a complicated word, a fancy word for make sure is balanced, right? We're making sure that everything that's in QuickBooks matches the bank. Okay, QuickBooks is just a software. It's pulling in that bank data, but it can make mistakes. Doesn't happen often, but it does. Excuse me. All right, so we're going to say get started and let's get reconciled. So what you'll have when this first time is like the most complicated time. Everything else, it should work really, really smoothly. So you'll choose the accounts. We're going to reconcile every account you have linked. So your checking, your savings, your credit card. If you have loans, you should be reconciling your loans too. Okay. We're going to do the savings since it's the most simple. All right. You'll see your beginning balance. If you're linking your bank for the first time today, you'll choose what you'll see here should be what's on your bank statement as of January 1st, 2025, right? You'll look at your January statement. You're going to put in your ending balance. I'm just making this up, right? This is, I would actually be looking at my source document, my bank statement to choose this. And then my last date is 1/31/2025, right? If you were doing all last year. So I'm going to click start reconciling. And what QuickBooks is doing is they are using AI to add up all of the different transactions to get to that statement ending balance. Okay. So if I look at this, this is what I want to see. I want to see a green check mark, $0 difference. That means that what's in QuickBooks is in the bank too. All right, and then I click finish now. If it's wrong, right, like I originally had it, I need to figure out where that $400 difference is. Okay, that means I'm going to print out my statement or look at my statement, and I'm going to look at this bank feed. I'm going to uncheck this for right now, and I'm going to go line by line looking at my bank statement to what's on the page. If I have a duplicate, let's pretend this is a duplicate, right? You might need to delete it. So I'm going to click edit, more, and then delete. Okay, if that's the case. Maybe I'm missing a transaction, right? Maybe my sync got messed up. I'm going to do plus create, say this is a bank deposit, right? I'm missing $400. I'm going to click on my savings, and then you'll fill in $400. This is received from Amy for design income, and then save. And then you'll set it to added, right? Oops, I did the wrong direction, right? Maybe I need to add an expense. I could do that here too. Okay. Obviously, you're going to be using your bank statement for this. We're not going to just wing it like I'm winging it right now. But you want to make sure that this matches your bank statement exactly. Once it is, so let me delete. Actually, no. Once it is matched, you can click finish now. All the pop-ups, right? Then I'll go to my checking and my credit card. Once those are done, I can say that I have audit-proof books, right? Like I have reconciled to the most recent statement, okay? After that, that's when I'm going to my profit and loss every single month. I'm going to change this time to last month. That's all I care about right now for my monthly workflow. Yikes, Craig. All right, and I'm looking at this number, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4. If this was in the positive, I would take 30% of that. I'd move it over to my high yield savings account where I would hold it until it's time to pay the next quarterly estimated tax. Okay, and then I'm done. Now all I need to do is review my reports, see if there's anything that I could be doing to adjust my profitability, my income, my expenses, and then moving on, right? This really shouldn't take, the basics of bookkeeping should not take you all that long. Okay, it should be an hour a month, couple hours maybe, but on the bare bones, it shouldn't take that much long, that long. Okay, and that's it. Those are the basics. That's the very basics of QuickBooks Online. As I've said a lot of times, right? There's so much here. There's so much to do within QuickBooks that you can really customize this to work for your business. But at the end of the day, what we just did, categorizing, reconciling, reporting, that's all you need to stay up to date with your record keeping. Okay. If you're eager for more and you want to learn more deeply, the more complicated stuff, QuickBooks 2.0, I saw Allie put in, is in March. So come join me then. But for now, we're going to use the last 30 minutes for any type of question you have related to QuickBooks, anything that we haven't touched, anything that you feel might be an outlier question, any clarifications for what we did go over today. And again, I want to say kudos to you guys for getting on a QuickBooks webinar in January when it's go time, right? Like this is the time to set up those great systems for 2026, maybe going back and cleaning up 2025. So you're already doing a lot right, which is awesome. All right. Put the questions in the chat box and we'll go through them. And if you feel good, don't feel like you need to stick around. I hope that this was helpful. Thank you for dealing with my scratchy voice this whole time. I didn't want to let you guys down and not be here because I know that this is a stressful QuickBooks tax time. All right. Amy, can the software be used with manual banking entries versus online linking with the bank? Yes. So if you don't want to, good question, Amy. If you don't want to link your bank, you can import a CSV file for your banking data. So what you would do is an account for your checking, your savings, whatever. But instead of linking it like we did in bank transactions, you're going to go to the gear icon, import data under tools. You're going to choose import bank data, import. You'll choose the bank, right, that we've just created, so checking, and then you'll choose the CSV file from your bank. So you would need to log into your bank account. Typically, if you go to the transactions tab in your bank account, you should be able to download, and it will say CSV file. I always recommend downloading by the month, right, which coincides with the bank statement, right, so that you're keeping it nice and clean. I wouldn't do like every week or something like that. Like try to keep to a standard rhythm. Then once you excuse me, once you upload this information, they'll ask you a couple of questions like what's the date format, how many columns show amounts, and then you'll have an option to kind of review everything before it gets into QuickBooks. One of the big messes that I see when you do this, make sure that the expenses all have a negative before them and all the deposits don't, right? There's a button that says like switch negatives and positives. You might need to click that first time for QuickBooks to understand. Otherwise, all of your accounts will be backwards, which we obviously don't want. Once they're imported, they'll be in here just like the sink is. Okay, you'll just have a long list of expenses that you and deposits that you have to categorize. Aurelia says, I saw an advertisement for QuickBooks, and it seems that every 3 months I must purchase QuickBooks. No, I think you must have seen their promo is like for the first 3 months you get it on sale. Once you have QuickBooks, it'll keep going. They're going to keep taking your money until you cancel. No, you definitely don't need to resubscribe. You can see your subscriptions and billing in the gear and under subscriptions and billing. All right, obviously we can't see it here because it's the test drive, but you'll be able to see it, and it will tell you when your billing date is, all that good stuff. Teresa says, if we're going to purchase QuickBooks software, do you think we need to hire a CP? Guessing CPA. I'm thinking all I need to do is print the report during tax season and give it to my tax person. Absolutely, Teresa. Yeah, QuickBooks is meant to help you do all of that compliance work, right? I don't think you need to hire a CPA in addition to a tax person unless you're looking for strategy, right? The CPA is going to know the tax system really deeply to help you to optimize that sort of thing. So no, I think I see plenty of business owners who are able to do their own QuickBooks month over month, and then yeah, pass over the profit and loss and balance sheet to their to their tax preparer come January. Jamie says, QuickBooks Online is one monthly subscription. It's another additional subscription for invoicing, 1099s, etc. No. So for invoicing is within QuickBooks Online. 1099s, they charge an additional fee for filing and processing. It's kind of expensive, honestly, compared to the other tax 1099 softwares. I use Track 1099, which is now Avalara 1099 to file 1099s. I think it's a really simple software and cheaper than QuickBooks. So if you're looking for a 1099 software, I'd recommend looking at that one. Tags 1099 is also really good. But you can also do it in QuickBooks, right? And so when you are doing it in QuickBooks, let me show you something you want to make sure you're doing is within your vendors, you want to just make sure that you're doing 1099 tracking for them. So if I'm at, let's just pretend A1 rental. If I click edit, I want to make sure they kind of hide it on us too. Do you see this button right here? Track payments for 1099. I want to make sure that that's clicked on and then save. And now I don't know if they're going to even listen here, but let's see. If I click on my 1099s, yeah, see, they're making me fill out all this information. But once you set up this, you would see, excuse me, you would see the 1099 for A1 rental and the amount that has been collected that you've paid him so far this year. Does that make sense? So there's benefits, there's disadvantages to everything. Like you can see here, yeah, $5.99 for the first 3 forms, which I think I pay like 3 something on Avalara. So something to consider. I don't know. It depends, I guess, your time opportunity cost, right? Let's see. Julie says, I do CPA, year-long support and strategy plus QuickBooks. CPA is like a dentist, dental visits. It's about the maintenance and avoiding nasty surprises and jump scares. Totally. Good, Julie. Teresa says, do you do one-on-one training? Oh my gosh, I think I've come to the end of my time here. Yes, so Teresa, within the Capital Pathways program, we are able to give you free one-on-one training. So if you want to reach out to Allie, she can get you on my calendar to meet and do one-on-one work with you in terms of setting up your chart of accounts, any of this information. Hopefully I have a voice by then when we meet again. But yes, so know that it's a free program. It's an awesome program. If you don't need financial advice, there's a bunch of other advice that we're able to give you, or if you don't need QuickBooks advice, and a bunch of other different financial advice that we're able to help you with, loans, debt, all of that good stuff. So definitely use these free resources, right? Madura, you are welcome. I hope that you all enjoy the rest of your week. Awesome, Allie. Great. Allie just put it in her email. Thank you, Jamie. Any other questions? Thank you all for being such active participants today. I hope you stay warm and safe.
I think we'll give it a few more minutes for any questions to come in, and then we'll close it out. So Bernice, yes, I will be sending a recording and any handouts that Jamie would like to share in an email, in a follow-up email within the next week.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Julie.
So Teresa, to answer your question, if you're looking for capital pathways advising, we are kind of limited to Virginia, but I believe the Georgia SBDC may have a similar program. But if your business is registered in Virginia, then we can work with you. Alrighty, I am not seeing any additional questions coming in, so I think we will wrap up for today. As I said before, the recording of today's session will be shared as part of a follow-up email that'll be sent within the next week. If we weren't able to respond to any of your questions, or you think of something, at 3 o'clock in the morning as you're sleeping, please feel free to send us an email or set up an appointment request. I've dropped both of those in the chat, but my email is ajohn216@gmu.edu. And as Jamie said, reach out to us and we'll connect you with her as well. That said, thank you so much, Jamie, for your time and all this wonderful information, and for all of our participants and their excellent questions. We look forward to future QuickBooks learning sessions.
Thank you all. See you soon.